and welcome back class 8 students. We'll be doing the same chapter that we have started before we dismiss the classes for a while, and the name of the chapter is heat. So we'll just be doing the basic part, the introduction parts for today, and then we'll continue with the classes in detail in the next class. Okay, so let's start with heat. So what is heat transfer? So heat transfer is a movement of heat, heat energy from one substance to another. So you know there's always transfer of heat from a hotter object to a colder object, or transfer of heat from a body at a higher temperature to a body at a lower temperature. That means when you have one hand, if you have one hand as your cold hand and the other hand is a hot one, what do? Generally you hold it together, isn't it? So when you hold it together and just keep it for a while, just clasp them together and just hold it for a while, what will happen? After some time you will feel that this cold hand has become warmer and the hotter hand has also lost its temperature. That means it has lost its heat. The heat has been transferred from a hotter object to the colder object. So that is called transfer of heat. And heat transfer, that means heat can be transferred in three different ways. One is conduction, convection and radiation. Though it is not there in your book, but it is only revision what we have done, what you've already studied. Okay. So conduction means when there is a transfer of heat, when the particles do not have to move from one place to another. What do? They simply vibrate in their own place and they transfer the heat. So generally conduction takes place in solids, liquids and gases, but conduction is fastest in solids. Okay, and that is the mode of transfer of heat in solids. So say this is a solid and you heat it from this end. Within no seconds, within no time, you will feel this end to be hot as well. So you cannot hold it for a longer time. You might have experienced it with a metal spoon when you're cooking with a metal object, and you just leave it for a while. What will happen? Your hand will burn because the entire body of the metal, the utensil has become hot. Okay, so what happens during conduction is the particles, as you know in solids, the particles are tightly packed. So they cannot move freely. But once they get heated, their kinetic energy increases. They start moving faster. So when they move faster, they touch the other particle and transfer the heat. The another particle, they start vibrating, and this is how heat is transferred from one end to the other end. Okay, that is your conduction. The second one is convection. What happens during convection? Convection takes place in liquids and gases. So convection is the mode of transfer of heat in liquids and gases. So you might have noticed that liquids and gases, they get heated from the bottom. Okay, they get heated and they rise up. That means the hot particles, they start rising up because in liquid and gases, the particles are free to move. So the hot particles, when they get heated, they start moving up. And when they start moving up, what happens? The vacant space is filled by the cold particles. Okay, the particles which are cold at the top, they will come down to occupy that space. Again, those cold particles will get heated, they will rise up. Another set of cold particles will come down, and the process continues till all the particles gets heated. So that is your convection. And radiation is the transfer of heat in which the medium is not required, no particles are required. Okay, for example, the ray of the sun reaches us in no time, isn't it? And you know there is it's vacant in the space. So despite not being any particles out there, the sun reaches here. Even when you light a heat or a fire and just reaches to you, isn't it? So that is your radiation. Okay, in radiation, no particle is required. Now, effects of heat. So there are various effects of heat. Some of the effects of heat that we're going to discuss is The first one is it causes change in temperature. Second one, it causes change of state. Third, it causes a chemical reaction. Fourth, it causes a change in density. And the fifth, it causes a change in shape. Okay, so these are the effects of heat. Cause a change in temperature, change in state, change of chemical reaction, change in density, and change in shape. And we will be discussing this more in detail. Now, what happens during change in density is, say, you take a particle and you start heating it. Okay, you take any particle, you start heating it. When you start heating that particle, what happens is that when you start heating a material, the particles of those material, they start vibrating, they start moving faster. Okay, when they start moving faster, the intermolecular force of attraction becomes weak. And the space between the particles, they start increasing. That means they start moving far apart from each other. Okay, the particles, they start moving far away from each other. So when they move far away from each other, okay, they occupy more space. They occupy more space means their density is changing. Their volume changes, therefore the density also changes. So this is what it means, changing density. As the substance gets hotter, its atom vibrates more strongly and take up more space. Most substances get bigger as they get hotter. That's why we say heat causes expansion. Okay, we say heat causes expansion. Because their mass stays the same, they become less dense. We usually measure this as much as a substance expands in one dimension, that is length, width or height. So this is called coefficient of thermal expansion, which we will be learning later in the same chapter. As of now, just understand, when the substance gets heated, its particles start moving faster and the intermolecular space between the particle increases and thus the volume increases. And when the volume increases, density changes, because density is defined as mass for volume. That means density is related to mass and volume. So when volume increases, density decreases. Okay, but mass remains the same. Did you get it? So this is how the density is changed when a substance gets heated. Now, change in shape. If you constantly, you might have seen it, you've seen those iron rods, when they're constantly beaten up, when they're constantly heated, they changes, isn't it? They become flat, or you might have seen them changing shape. Okay, so heat also causes change in shape. Okay, another effect is change in state. You know there is two types of states, that is solid, liquid, gases and plasma. So plasma, which is not included in your textbook, so we'll be discussing about solid, liquid and gases. So you know a solid can be changed to liquid, liquid can be changed to gases, gases can be changed to liquid and liquid can be changed to solid. Even solids can be directly converted to gases and gases can be directly converted to solids. So you've learned about this transaction in class 7 itself, and you know all the processes. And however, we'll be discussing about this as well. So now, as of now, just know that there will be change of state. So when an object gets heated, a solid gets heated, it changes to liquid. If a liquid gets heated, it changes to gases. And if a solid is supplied too much heat, sometimes it gets converted to gases directly. Vice versa, if a gas loses heat, it changes to liquid. If a liquid loses heat, it changes to solid. So there is a change in state. Okay. So as per this change in temperature and all that, we'll be discussing later. So we'll stop here today and we'll continue the classes in the next class. Okay. Thank you and have a good day.